everybody. It's Coach Hart with the Baskipedia Podcast. I have Coach Brandon Thomas of Pickens High School in Georgia. He's coached now for 10 years, and last year he decided to go to the system. So we're going to discuss why he did that, things that probably didn't go so well, and things that did go so well, and probably offer a little advice to myself since I'm going to be going to this year. So I reached out to Coach to talk a little system basketball and what he likes about it, what he struggles with. So, Coach, how's everything going in Georgia?
It's good. We're playing some sports here. Friday night football last night. I know everybody in the country is not getting to play right now, but it was nice to be out and see the football team play. It gives me hope that we're going to have a basketball season this year. So it's going good.
Okay. So you coached 9 years, yep. And you were running what type of basketball? What were you doing prior to the system?
Very traditional. We kind of came up in a system with a guy who was extremely structured. He ran some very traditional flex. He ran swing. He ran shuffle. We played pack line style man, almost no zone. And that's kind of who I trained under as an assistant. And then when I got to be a head coach, that's what I knew. I basically started learning dribble drive because swing and flex is super old school and very continuity. So I wanted something a little more attacking and became familiar enough with dribble drive to run that and add some sets. But I would definitely say it's definitely traditional style, very conservative, get good shots, don't give up anything easy. And that's what we did for 9 years. And we had some success. I've had some good players and some good teams. But the circumstances at the school I'm at, this is my third spot or second head coaching spot, is we were losing a very seasoned point guard. We had one player returning that was a clearly dominant player for us. She was pushing to be all-time leading scorer in her school. She averaged 20 points a game. And under her, the next highest player, I think, maybe averaged 4. So, yeah, the 20-point score, 4 points, 3 points, 2 points, 1, 0. I mean, it was – so I basically knew the league was going to take away our player. And we didn't have a lot of experience behind her. So I started looking for how do you win with – we didn't have a lot of size. We didn't really have a post to throw it to that could play with back to the basket or draw fouls. So I had a scorer, a bunch of guards. Some could shoot the three. And I was like, how do we win in that setting? So I just started searching I almost typed into Google, how do you win with a small team? And somehow I stumbled across this concept of the system, and then I just started looking for avenues to find out more. I found some people that you found, Coach Gale at Stewart's Draft. I just don't even know. I just heard his name. I looked up looked him up on YouTube. He sent me film. Coach Porter had an old film that was on YouTube of his team, one of his teams at Olivet running it. I watched it 6 times. And then we went after it and we tried it. So it was really mainly to how can we score, how can we win with a single player that's dominant that could be taken away by all the well-coached teams. So that was the reason.
So how did the season go? Did you guys win a lot, or how'd you end up doing?
We went 19-10, which I think was beyond expectations. I think, communities kind of have a feeling, how's your season going to be this year? How are you going to be? They knew we had lost a point guard that ended up playing, small college ball around here. She's a great leader. So I think people expected us to be down, but it just worked. We ended up having 2 shifts. The player that was my dominant scorer ended up averaging more points her senior year than she did the year before. She scored at a higher rate, even though she played less minutes. So she went from 20 points a game to 25. She put up 46 in a game. So she was successful, which was great. But all the other kind of players behind her, I saw averages go from 0 a game to 4.7, or from 3 a game to 6 to 7 points a game. So the offensive production went from a team the year before it averaged around 51, 52 points a game to we averaged around 68. We averaged around 50 to 50 shots a game. We averaged 70 shots a game running the system. And I didn't see a drop-off in wins. I mean, we took some bad losses. We gave up some points, but we took bad losses and gave up points traditionally as well. It wasn't like we were an undefeated team. The year before, we were 16-13. previous year to that, we were 22-7. So, you know, we're kind of above 500 or so. And then we went 19-10. So I would say it's good.
Your feelings is if you would have stayed traditional, do you think you would have went 19-10?
I do not. In my gut, and I saw counsel from other coaches in my area, not my opponents, but just friends and coaching groups, is I didn't feel like we could run traditional just sets that could be scouted and taken away. I didn't think we could play ball control and still get good shots for our best player, because if I was playing us, I would face guard her, I would box and one her every game. I would even put 2 kids on her because none of the other kids had proven that they could score. So by going system, it was almost, it's transition almost the entire time, and she had space to work. I mean, literally, we would, even sometimes we'd get scored on, she'd have the ball in her hands and scoring within 4 or 5 seconds on the other end. I mean, it was just that quick sometimes. Now, every game wasn't perfect, but she just got tons of looks that she would not have gotten. And I don't think the skill set of the other players, like they weren't tacticians, like, you know, baseline bounce pass entry to the post or give and go or be able to catch in motion if you're running motion or something. That wasn't their skill set. But what they could do is they could shoot threes, you know, catch and shoot threes, and they could play a little bit of defense. So running the system allowed basically every player to use what was their strongest suit, which was basically shooting, because there are not a lot of kids that could drive to the hole outside of our one score. So it accentuated their best skills while it kind of hid some of their weaknesses. And I thoroughly enjoyed it as a coach because it was almost an adventure. Like, you did not know what was going to happen every game. You just knew you were going to really get after it and you were going to shoot shots. Like when Doug says you're going to shoot 43s a game, I'm like, are you crazy? But we averaged 35 three attempts a game. We averaged 35 three attempts a game. We hit 16 and 1. Had 16 made threes. I think that was our high on the year. But almost every game we're getting double-digit threes. And it's just awesome. You know, the kids got fired up about it. There was more enthusiasm, obviously, because more kids played.
So would you call yourself a purist with it, or did you hybrid it? Did you do the 5 goals? I mean, who did you pattern it after? I mean, there's the Grinnell style, there's Olivet. I mean,
yeah, I read the book a couple times. It's thick. You've seen it. I'm sure you're
the Bible. The Bible.
Yeah, I read it. I talked to Coach Gale at Stewart. He's like, you got to get it, because I was like, do I really need that? I was like, you need it, and he was right. You got to have it. You need to get that foundation. And it really lets you kind of pick and choose. I don't think that what Grinnell does or Redlands fits girls very well. I felt like what Doug did with Olivet was just the best fit. It takes the least amount of skill to. You're not setting stagger screens and jumping and throwing the ball across to the backside for an open three. Just don't. It's, you know.
Yeah.
So Doug's really, it was almost dribble drive before dribble drive was popular. It's just drop kick. It's fill behind, turn and toss it and pitch it and shoot it. And it's keeping a post backside. All that stuff, we had already run dribble drive, even in our just basic traditional style as a base. I feel like in our community, we're not very diverse. We have a ton of white kids that are just not super athletes, but they're awesome kids. And when I first got here, I came from a place that had tons of athletes, and they could do dribble drive. Like, that's kind of how they played, second nature. But we kept it here because it almost made girls in a rural community that are just used to catching and looking, or catching and shooting, and made them put the ball on the floor. So even just breakdown drills of drive kick, drive jump stop, all that stuff was just good development for them. So even if we didn't use a lot of dribble drive against man, if we had to go to like a chin set or something to score, the dribble drive was a daily thing that we did to help us become better basketball players. So it's I can't remember the original question, but it was definitely.
It was basically, are you a purist, 5 in, 5 out?
We tried to stick to Doug stuff. I mean, we did dribble drive base offense, first shot you could get. They're saying 5 to 7 seconds. I wanted them to take it, and it took the girls. I don't think they believed me. I don't think they believed me that I said it was okay to shoot it. Now some of them did. They're like, heck yeah, that was just fine. I mean, they called it, they shot. And that happened to sometimes be the kid that didn't need to do it as much. But even those kids I encouraged, especially in the summer. I did get a summer, which was a blessing. We played 21 scrimmages throughout the summer, and we just did it from the very first one. And the very first one was We got 67 shots in a running clock game. We hit 8 shots, and we got destroyed. And everybody's like, oh, what are we doing? And I told them all, I said, it's going to take a while and figure out what we're doing. We did the shifts. We subbed every minute or less, sometimes 35 seconds, 45 seconds. Basically, my assistant just had the next group ready, and I would just, he would send them on his own, but I would send them if I felt like it was getting stale or whatever. But we tried to do it as pure as the book describes, and go all in, because I didn't want to say I don't want to give up layups. I didn't want to say I wanted to truly try it if I was going to try it, and we gave up layups. So,
you gave up layups, huh?
We did. It hurt my heart, but I mean, we also scored over 70 points 11 times with girls basketball. I mean, we hit 92 one time. Sometimes it was just on fire,
Shot clock or no shot clock?
We have no shot clock, but I don't really think shot clock makes a difference most of the game. And to me, a shot clock is more about end-of-game management. I rarely play a team that's holding the ball for 30 seconds before they shoot, even if they run a very continuity style.
See, I don't know what it's like. I mean, I'm 45. Yeah, I'm 45, and I played in high school with it. So that's how long it's been. That's how long it's been out here in California. I mean, so
we just passed it here. It's coming in the next 3 years, but I'm looking forward to it, because if you're down 5 and it's the end of the game, it's just hard to win unless
it's over. It's over unless they don't. I mean, it's called keep away. I mean,
yeah, and it's hard. So I'm looking forward to that. I think it allows more coaching, a chance to get better with coaching.
So let me ask you about. Everybody says I don't have enough horses to do this system stuff.
Yeah.
Shift, playing 5 in, 5 out. Most teams, if you're a Northern high school team, you probably have your top 2 or 3 players, and then 4 through 12, 15, probably there's a big drop off at most typical high school public schools. Would you agree with that?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so was there kids on the team that if you would have stayed playing the same way you did for 9 years, that it would have never seen the floor for you, but actually helped you win basketball games and produce? Out of curiosity.
Definitely kids that would not have seen the floor saw the floor. You have to play them. You have to play them. And so you're automatically starting with at least 10 for sure if you're doing 2 shifts. And, I mean, if you go, a lot of the college guys are doing 3 shifts a lot, like, a lot of the people you've talked to. Now, we did not have enough for 3. We settled on 12, kind of 2 sets of 6. And we had 3 other freshmen that we brought up that could fill in if there was an injury or foul trouble or late game, and we were up. We threw them into shifts down the stretch. But basically, we settled on 12. But in those 12, I had a kid who probably wouldn't even play basketball. She's really kind of out there to be part of the team. But she's a great kid. She's tough. She played tons of minutes. I mean, she found herself probably averaging 14, 16 minutes a game and making plays. She didn't score. But she had a positive impact. I had another kid that had never played varsity, ended up playing almost half the season. I mean, half the minutes, made plays, didn't score a ton, but definitely contributed. So I would say that 8, 9, 10, 11, they're on the floor and you got to let them make. But here's the thing is they don't beat you or win in one shift at a time. It's, their limitations don't show up so much because the game's so chaotic. So you're not asking them to run chin. You're not asking them to run flex and set screens. You're just asking them to don't throw the ball to the other team where they can score and to put pressure and to go rebound. And shoot an open 3 and then go rebound. So I enjoyed the fact that those kids got to play. And what I also saw is they actually started paying more attention in practice. When we did shooting drills instead of the top 4 kids, doing the drills, and everybody kind of, they did theirs, but they didn't care. They didn't think they're ever going to get to shoot. Now, all of a sudden, everybody's odds are big, and they're all trying to make shots in practice because they actually think they're going to get a chance to shoot. And they did. So, I guess it was cool.
So, first year running it, what was the hardest part putting it in, Coach?
Just not knowing, no experience. Like, what do you emphasize? Like, I tried to listen to everybody, and the thing I kept hearing from Doug or whatever was getting them to understand how fast you have to go. So I worried less about what the press was I mean, I've never taught a lot of pressing. I knew dribble drive is attack oriented in a way. I knew that would be a base, basically drive, kick, shoot threes. So I didn't focus on the press. I didn't focus on the sets or offense. I just focused on pure speed. And we did stuff like from Arkansas neighbors, you know, that game they play where they count down from 30, send the shot clock, and you score however fast you score, whatever's left on the clock as your points. You ever played that game before? We do that in practice. We do 11-man in practice.
I forget. I'm mind blanking the name of the drill, but he has it on his YouTube. He has it on his YouTube channel, and he'll tell you. I had him on one of the Zoom clinics, and he'll just say if he had to choose one drill to run every day in practice, that would be the drill. That it would be his vitamin that he would run every day.
Well, they just go and shoot so fast. I mean, and the rebound putbacks are important because you get a reset shot clock. And so we would play to 100. You'd think it would take 5 minutes. It'd take 1 minute and 40 seconds, and you're already at 100, you know, when you're playing that fast. So we would do stuff like that. We actually wanted to simulate it. So we set up the whole gym like game night. We broke out the video board. We did music. We did warm up, and we basically pressed the eyeballs out of our JV 2 times in preseason just to try to simulate how fast the rotations were and how fast you had to go. And we told our JV, who had about 8 kids on it, you're going to turn it over. We don't care in the score. We're just trying to simulate the speed. And I really felt like that helped a little bit. We think we scored 47 points in the first half, 47-13 or something. And you saw how tired they were. We were never, I felt like, in shape enough. That was the thing that surprised me. I didn't feel like we ever really got in shape. It's like we were gassed all the time, just chasing people all over the floor. And maybe if there was a third, maybe that's why you need that third shift, because you catch your wind. And that surprised me. I thought we would wear people down, but when I look at my numbers on Huddle, our best quarter for differential was always the second quarter, season long. And we had positive differential in all 4 quarters. The second quarter seems to be where we made the most hay, not the fourth quarter. Some of that may be because we're holding the ball near the end, but it was just interesting tracking all the data. So we just focused on going fast. That was the main thing early. And then we tried to fix the press as the season went, fix the offense as the season went.
So did you have a set 5 goals?
Yeah, we would try to shoot 43s a game or 80 shots, 43s. Okay. We tried to have a turnover percentage cost 25 turnovers a game roughly. We tried to rebound. We set offense rebound at 35%, but we found that wasn't high enough. Like we weren't getting enough.
Yeah. Doug suggests for girls usually 40, I think.
Yeah, we went to 40, and we finished. I'm looking at 38.5 on the season. So, and then they do differential. I focus less on the differential than just rebounds, turnovers, shots, threes. I'm trying to remember the other one off the top of my head, but yeah, we kind of wrote those goals down, and that's kind of how we talked about having success. But our kids live and die on winning and losing. So as we first did it, our very first scrimmage, we get to have a preseason scrimmage here in Georgia. I don't know if you guys do out there, but it doesn't count. We gave up 98 points. It was like 78, 98 or something like that. I was excited that we scored 78 points with a team that I didn't think could average 40 on the year, like just as a team. All they saw was 90-something points that we gave up, even though we scored 31 points in the third quarter. I mean, I'm like, we just came out on fire, just, clawed back in the game, cut it to like 5 or 6. And then, we gave out of gas, and they had kind of a stronger team and ran away. But the very next game, we win 92-90 in overtime, and they think it's the best thing in the world. It was the most fun game, probably one of the most fun games all year. And then the very next game, we lose by 6, like 80 to 70.
The world came to an end.
And they think it's the worst thing we're ever doing. They just lived and died by the result, not by the process.
Yeah. So I was going to ask, you were getting kind of to it. You had a lot of peaks and valleys probably throughout the year. You probably had some times where you smacked some people, and then there were some times where you got the blowout. So in your eyes, when did it happen in the season where the light bulb kind of clicked on with the girls and maybe they said, hey, this is something that really works and we can be good at it? Was there a point in your season? How long did it take?
I don't know if we had some odd things in our season. I think there was a point in the season that a lot of the kids felt like this is cool. and they begin to take pride in it, and they begin to be excited about it. But because of how our season unfolded, because of some of the views of some of our parents, I think there was just a couple that just did not ever want to give into it being a great idea. And I think that limited what Doug and those guys talk about having 100% buy-in. It never really changed our performance. And we worked hard. Like those girls, every game we watched, I mean, they were all over, even down to our state tournament game that we lost in the first round. We qualified for state, but we had a tough matchup when we were cold that night. Just nothing would go down. We got in a little bit of foul trouble, and we just ended up losing by 15 or something. But I just felt like some of that coming from outside of our circle kept 100% joy and buy-in from what we were doing for everybody. But if you asked probably 85-90% of our kids, they thoroughly enjoyed what we did. But anytime you deal with team dynamics, some kids had a role, like one kid had played, this position that might have played a different position, and they were outside their comfort zone, but because of what we were doing, that was their role. So you had to deal with role management, who's getting shots, and all that kind of stuff that comes into the season. But our kids generally are great about accepting where they're at and what they're doing. I just never felt like we had everybody as excited as the coaching staff was. Coaching staff was fired up, and there was just so much talk about what we were doing. People in the stands like, what are they doing? Like subbing every minute. It was so foreign to people that they had a hard time not hearing that noise. Does that make sense? And I think without any of that noise, I think they would have started walking around like, oh yeah, we're pretty bad. We just put up 89 on somebody, So I'm interested to see how it goes this year. If we do truly commit, what their attitudes are going to be like about it. I think it's
so
important.
So you're on the Facebook group that we have,
Yep.
System Basketball Coaches. You found out about the system. Me and you connected through email through Kevin Furtado's. You were listening to his podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent you out an email and invited you to our stuff. Is there anything specific or a few things that you heard from Coach Barber's, Arsenal's, and the people that we've had on that you're going to take back to help for year two?
Well, yeah, actually, back when you were doing a lot of the podcasts during the heart of the pandemic time, you had some guys on that were talking press. You had some guys on that were talking zone offense. And what I'm pulling out of what you've done and what notes I've taken and things I've rewatched is those next pieces to make us better. And we've got the speed concept down now. We know we're going to press, but what style of press will work best for our group? And then really the offensively, what hurt us the most was zone. Like if anybody went man on us, we filled it up. I mean, they couldn't stay in front, and we either got transition or we got something quick almost every time. But if they could beat us down the floor, turn around and set up, our kids weren't comfortable enough to shoot so quickly against the zone. They just fell back on old habits where we got to pop it around a few times, and that slowed down the flow. I really felt like if we just came down and jacked it, it would have probably been better, because there would have been a scramble for an offensive rebound, or it would have kept tempo up, and their zone would have gotten weak. Everybody would have gotten tired. So
I kept asking questions.
Go ahead.
I kept asking the zone question on all my Zoom clinics. You probably heard. I'm like, what do you do if they play zone? And Coach Barber comes on. We just showed it.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's. So I joked with them, and I'm like, if I wasn't going to system, and I wasn't a system coach, I'm like, I would think, Coach, that you're just giving me that clinic answer right now, where they just give you that. You know what I'm talking about? Where they just say, get a better player, or you got to get this. But going back to, you said you didn't do much with the press. Do you think that was a mistake, and you're going to maybe emphasize it more and work on that more to generate, maybe that can help you generate more pace, get you more steals, and not worry about the zone factor?
I do think we need to shore up the press, and against the good teams. Against the bad teams, what's fun, it doesn't matter. I mean, you could be terrible. Just the speed, they turn the ball over. They don't make shots, face tempo. But when you play a team that's better than you, and that was what I was kind of fearing. Like we're not top of our region. There's going to be teams that are better than us. What is it going to look like against them? And they carved it up sometimes. I mean, we gave up in the 90s a couple times, and it was hard for the kids to choke that down, because we weren't as big or as athletic, and our rotations weren't as sound. We didn't take the best angles in the press, and I just didn't teach it that well. So, and it's just because, you can't teach everything at one time. You can't emphasize everything at one time. So we kind of picked what we thought we needed most, and then we tried to fix it, like patch the ship along the way. And I think we found our way to some degree, and the press got better. But at the same time, I don't know, you coached, people get better at breaking it by the end of the year. They've got a year, they got that experience on them. Yeah. The guard plays better, the press is less effective. So what I've been looking at is changing what we do in the half court as well. Once we, even if we just want to get nominal pressure up front to make sure the speed's there, maybe we go full deny. I know Doug's got names for it, like inside, outside, up, all that kind of stuff. And we had terminology for it, but getting them in that pace, but then when they get back to the half, almost going more like what Kevin would say, like go buzz or go something that's is going to be a different look in the half court. I felt like we just fell back to a 3-2 base set and kind of scrambled, because I talked to Doug at a clinic. I'm like, what do you do in the half court? He's like, you just trap. I'm like, well, what do you do in the half court?
That's all he does. He doesn't do anything else.
Like, how do you trap? Do you trap? Out of what formation?
2 people on the ball, deny the lag, interceptors.
So we had problems with rotation along the baseline. If a big went out to trap, we didn't come across fast enough. So just little things like that we can clean up now to hopefully put more pressure on our opponents and make them make more mistakes. I don't think we turn them over as much as what we hopefully could. Lost you on audio for a second. Still no audio.
Now can you hear me?
Gotcha.
All right. Sorry about that, everybody. So Doug, we were doing a round table where it was just about 8 or 10 of us, and Doug was in there and Gary Smith wasn't. And we were doing a defensive chat, and he goes, I think this is the most we've ever talked about defense without Gary Smith on a call. So, so the guy, universally, it's if you want to talk defense on the system, it's Gary. He's the co-author of the book. So, but he gets knocked. The guy scored 134 points in a season running the system. So he has to know a little bit about offense. So year 2 is going to come. And you were on the fence, and it sounds like you're gonna do it still.
I think so. Yeah.
What's it look like for you? How many returners you have coming back?
We lost quite a bit. We lost that 2,000 point scorer. She signed to play college in the state of Georgia. We have a returning point guard, but you kind of have to have 2 at least, So we've got some young kids that are moving up that are going to play as probably freshmen. We've got some sophomores that have hopefully matured some that'll play more minutes. And I think I'm going to tell them, look, it's wide open. You want minutes, get in that top 10, get in that top 12 and compete for your spot. And, in a small community like we have, we're 40,000 people in the county and 12 to 1,300 in the school, and not so many kids that play sports. We really have to get the most we can out of the athletes that we have. So I always worry about numbers, but I think we'll have 12 again, and just maybe some young kids, and those kids are going to play. But I'm really interested in seeing how we score this year, because everybody kind of relied on that player last year, but not really in her group. They did, because in her shift, we call them green white because that's her color. So it was green group, white group. Well, she obviously put up 25 a game in her group, but ironically, the white group was more efficient at scoring. They actually had a better plus minus against the opponent than the green group did, even though
I like that.
Our Mackenzie's she put up 727. It was amazing to watch in the season. So, but a lot of those kids in that white group also graduated, a couple of shooters. So we have to fill those spots. And I think we're really going to have to work on shooting the basketball, because we just don't have kids that are going to finish at the rim right now. And that means we're going to shoot something else.
Did you, in year 1, did you run it with your lower levels?
We didn't have enough at the JV level. We we had 20 in the program. We had 15 of those 20 dressing varsity. 3 of those varsity kids played primarily JV. So when you look at the numbers, we had around 8 8, 9 on JV. It just wasn't enough to simulate the exact same thing. So we played similar stuff. We ran similar quicks. But just in our town, we don't have enough kids playing to do the exact same thing at JV level, which is unfortunate. Now our 8th grade and 7th grade group has a coach, good friend of mine. They played a lot of up tempo. They pressed. They did it. They didn't do true system, but those kids are playing fast, so they're coming in with that mindset of playing quick at least.
So with 12 kids that you had on varsity, how did you do your practice? Did you practice with everybody, or did you just do varsity?
We've always practiced whole programs, so we go all 20 kids in the gym same time. My gym's in the background right there. We've got plenty of space. We do have an old gym that we practice in when we split with boys, but we tried to follow the book's concept of less time, faster paced, 10-second transitions. Like I think Kevin says 8-second transitions in his practice, and so we would go from one thing to the next, and a lot of full court, but short amounts of time. We actually took a day off, which is not like what we've done in the past. We didn't practice on Wednesdays most of the season because I really wanted, if I was asking them to give all this effort, games and practice, 100%, I wanted them to have a day off to rest their legs and their mind and stay fresh. And we'll probably continue that based on how the schedule works in Georgia. Wednesday's it's normally a lift day or a film day or a light shooting day anyway. So while they won't have every Wednesday off, because we have far travel, I don't know about you guys, but almost every game's an hour drive on the bus. So
no, I mean,
we'll get back late on Tuesday.
If you drove an hour in California, man, you'd go through 50 high schools.
Okay, well, we drive an hour. The only school under an hour is the one county next to us. Everything else is an hour or more.
Yeah, I mean, and that's probably a low number. That 50 is probably a low number. I mean,
okay.
Just in my school district, I have 3, and that is a town of 100,000 people. There's 3 high schools, so that you could probably get to within the city in a 5 to 10 minute drive.
Okay, so that is totally different world.
And what's wild with that is starting this year, I'm in a league, and the other 2 are in. I think all of us are in different leagues.
Wow, y'all schedule anyway just because you're close to play each other?
I mean, like I said, yeah. Well, in my league, we'll be the farthest team, like north. Everybody else is in like South Riverside, so off like the 91 area, and I'm off the 60 in California. So it's probably, we take side streets and stuff, so it's probably a good 30-minute bus ride to get to most of the locations.
Okay.
So, but then I have, like I said, school to my left, 5 minutes, school to my right, 5 minutes, a school to my north, 10 minutes, another school, 7 minutes. So it's kind of weird. I mean, here, I don't know how your playoffs are. We could drive 5.5 hours to play a school in our section in the playoffs.
Okay. Is that because
that's not a state game. That's
based on size?
Yeah, we have Southern section, CIF Southern section that we're in is a little under, I think, 600 schools.
Wow.
So it goes all the way from Palm Springs area all the way up to San Luis Obispo.
Man.
That's our section. But then you have City of LA that has its own private city section called LA City Section.
They've got a lot of people.
It's yes, no, they do. I mean, 100,000 town may sound big in Georgia or something like that, but here it's not very big. So, the book,
yeah,
the criticisms and all the things that's said in it, did it happen?
Absolutely, it was almost prophetic. It was prophetic. I had issues with shot selection. We had people that had questions about the subbing, just not understanding what we were doing, and so yeah, the things that the book tells you, I think rang true. Being prepared for some of the challenges that are coming, but I really appreciated that it was there because I was looking for them, was waiting on some of these concepts to come up. and they did. And it was interesting how well they laid it out. Like, I think there's just a few pages in there of the questions that you're going to have. I can't remember. It's on my shelf back here behind me, but they laid it out. It's almost like you could go down the list, each bold question, and those questions got asked by someone somewhere.
Yeah. What was the biggest criticism, Coach, that you would hear?
I think the subbing.
So many of them.
The subbing was the most foreign to our community. Why are we even for instance, we have that kid that averaged 20 points a game. Why would she come out of the game? Would be a question that people have, and it makes sense. I understood that question, but the answer to that was not easy to explain to a community as much to our team and our admin. Is you can't play at that tempo for that long. And I thought it was really interesting for her particularly, and I spent some time talking to her. Her production was higher. Her production per minute, I think, and we did double shift her some. That's what I think it was wise to do. She was a talented kid, is a talented kid, and we wanted her on the floor as much as she could and keep up with that pace. So she got extra shifts, and we made adjustments, and we had it all laid out like the guys in the book say. We had shift charts and prepared ahead of time, and you just kind of got used to a rhythm. Someone was having a bad night or someone seemed gassed, you'd throw someone in their shift. But I would say just the subbing, and then how many threes we took just caught people off guard, were some of the things that I heard back from either observers. And as the coach, I didn't mingle a lot with people, but that's what would make its way back to me is, well, why are you subbing so much? Or why are you doing it again against a team that already beat you? Like, we'd play someone a second time, they beat us, and we're doing the same thing again next time. That was also something I heard.
Yeah.
And that made sense sometimes too.
So your best player.
Yeah.
How was she throughout the season? Did she struggle with the subbing herself?
Personally, I think she as an individual got it. I think that's not what she heard outside of our circle. Like,
typical.
Very normal, because people might not understand. So that caused her to struggle with it sometimes. She's such a positive kid and a good kid, attitudinally. She shrugged that off. But I think she heard it some because I guess when you come into a traditional setting, I'll say this to coaches that try it, you're just used to playing your best kids the most minutes. In the previous year, she didn't come off the floor very much at all unless she got in foul trouble or got winded. The point guard that graduated didn't come off the floor hardly at all. Your best kids played most of the minutes, and you go from doing that and all of a sudden now you're not doing it. It's understandable, I think, why they would question it and why they wouldn't understand it. So that's where I missed the mark, I think, on trying to fully explain it maybe a little more ahead of time to people that were more in the community-based or parents than I did to the players. I think they got it. But that was it just caused some confusion. But what was weird is the production. Like I said, that first game regular season, she put up 46. I mean, 4 points away from setting the school record. So obviously, in execution, what we were doing was not hindering her and her opportunities to have an impact on the game. She ended up being Region Player of the Year in our region. She ended up being co-district Player of the Year in our area of the state. So I would say the results were good. The understanding of the process was not good.
Okay, so you set your roster's at 12. Would you like to get it higher if you could build up the numbers?
I would love to be able to go a 3-shift. So part of me doesn't want to because you want those better. I mean, you say getting those groups balanced was nice. You want those kids to play. You don't want to take even more minutes away by adding a third shift. But I do think having a third shift that could come in every now and then or in some games, for seasoning those extra players. But also, if you really wanted to push the tempo, you might could get those first two groups to play even faster than they were, because that was the battle, is they would still slip into old habits of kind of pacing themselves or not going at the speed that would give them the advantage that you're going for. Like, the whole concept of the system is that speed is the advantage you're looking for to make that big 8-point run or 6-point run, 10-point run. So if they're taking the foot off the pedal at all, you're getting the negatives of the system without as much as the positives. And that was where we had to be careful. I think we all, as we got fatigued in the season, as the season wore on, they would just settle into kind of playing maybe system style under traditional tempo intensity.
Yeah.
And so we really had to make sure they didn't forget that. And that's where the numbers come in. Hey, we're only at this many shots. We got to get 80 shots. We got to get 85 shots. And that would speed them back up.
So how were you at practices or planning for practices after games? I mean, was stress lower, or were you still, I mean, because traditional coaching, I mean, you're all trying to do these great practice plans and
Right.
X's and O it up. How did you feel? How was the stress level for you during the season?
The only thing that stressed me was just the acceptance of what we were doing outside of our circle. That caused some stress, it did, and it wore on me. But the actual functioning of basketball, it was rejuvenating. I mean, more kids were playing. It's fun. It is fun to coach assistant basketball. Like you would think, drawing up great plays, having good ATOs or sideline and baseline out of bounds and scouting every opponent perfectly. Those things are fun too, and really having an impact. But turning the horses loose and just cheering them on almost it was a new feeling. And I think Coach Gale talked about it. He just was kind of in a rut with swing and 2-3 zone. And this just is it's exciting. As a coach, you're like, look, you're just going to get them fired up. And yeah, you make adjustments with maybe how you change your press when a shift comes in. Hey, you guys are going to be in full deny. You're going to back up and pick up 3/4. We want to change it up on them. Or this is where they're beating the pressure. Let's make this adjustment. And you just make that quick fix with a shift before they go back. But you actually get to cheer for kids shooting shots. Like, you want that kid to make that three. You want that kid that was the 8th player to make a big play or get a steal. And for me as a coach, I was fired up. Practices were more fun. We played music. We shot a ton. We just shot. We tracked shooting. We sent out leaderboards on who was doing well because we wanted them to build some confidence and compete to get better at shooting. So I thoroughly enjoyed it, and only diminished by some of the pushback I got from just a few people in the community, unfortunately.
And the community thing and the parental thing, is there anything, did you do a parent meeting? The admin thing, did you do the PowerPoint? I think you probably heard me say this on some of the other podcasts. Like if you ran flex,
yeah,
you wouldn't go to your AD and do the PowerPoint and say, hey, I'm going to run flex this year. Isn't it crazy that you kind of have to justify what you're doing? How did you go about distributing it to your program? I mean, how did you say, hey, this is what I'd like to do?
Well, to the program, to the admin first, I have a good relationship with the athletic director at the time, the principal, and they trust me. And I described it to them basically a couple of times when I didn't set up a meeting like this is all official. I just say, hey guys, we're going to be doing something different. This is what I've been studying. You may get some questions about this. You may, it's going to look different. And my AD says, is this what you think you need to do to win? I said, yes. He said, you said more kids were going to play? I said, yes. He said, okay, sounds good. And so they basically, both principal and AD said, you got our support. And that's what they should do. I mean, that's what they hired me to do. With the players, I really took my time. I called them in, small groups, even individually, when I had a planning period, and I'd pull them out of a PE class or something, and I showed them all of that Nazarene running it. Just that one.
That's a good team to show.
That one YouTube clip that I found at the time, and it was from probably the 90s, and I let them watch the score. I let them watch the speed, and then because they didn't want to sit there 15 minutes and watch the whole half. They're teenage kids. I jumped ahead. And they saw there was like 47 points. I said they're not quite to halftime yet. They're like, really? And so I showed them something positive. I said, we're going to try something different. I need you to buy into it. And I just prepped them all individually and then as a group. And then when we tried it, I just told them it's going to be messy. I said, let's let it be messy. Let's give it a full chance. I think you'll like it. And I just told them, it's like more people are going to have a role. More people are going to have an opportunity. But what was interesting, I think there are some people just in the heart of hearts as players, they didn't necessarily want all the people to have more of a role. They didn't think this was something I didn't anticipate. They didn't think some of the players that were less skilled, that hadn't put in as much time, deserved to have the opportunity. And it just didn't occur to me until I saw it. And I was like, I get the point, but this is what we need to do for the whole team right now. And even though those kids might not be skilled putting much time, they're actually going to help us with this.
Yeah, so, we struggle with that. We're struggling with that sometimes right now. Like we got a lot of buy-in, and then we got some guys that are just kind of struggling or just struggling and just kind of being apart. They're not kind of just, there's other things that are more important, if you will. So parent thing, I mean, that's a big issue. Forgot what Zoom or whatever it was. And I want to know your opinion on this one. Is most of the moms love it. Moms love it because they get to see their kids play more. And then the issues sometimes are the Monday morning point guard, quarterback talk, whatever you want to call it, is dads that have either been coaches or dads that have played. What's this? 5. The biggest turnoff, you would say, I think we'll repeat it, is the 5 in, 5 out, right?
Yeah. You get things like they're not going to get in flow. And the number, what was interesting is the numbers backed up none of the criticisms. Like the numbers backed up what we were doing, whether it would be the rebounds, the points. Now, obviously, our defensive average was trash. But if we pointed to previous years, the previous year, we lost by 32 in a game. We lost by like 27 in a game. We didn't play perfect every game. We had our differential was +10 last year. It was +2 or +3. So
I had that argument before.
So the numbers just didn't. We set a school record in points for a season and school record in threes. And this is not with all stars. Like this is with just good kids. Making shots. So I wish I could have put. People told me I needed to go out and defend what we were doing a little bit more publicly. But I think most of our parents thoroughly enjoyed our games. I think there was just a couple of people disgruntled, and you get that with every season, every group of kids. You wish it was a perfect world where everybody could be like, yeah, but that's just not coaching. So
did attendance rise?
We had, really, it depends on how the boys are. So the boys are good.
Okay.
But our boys had a better season, so we had good numbers. We had good attendance this year, and I tried to get some things going, like with all like T-shirts with number 3.
Slogans. What was your slogans? What was your slogan?
We didn't really have a season slogan. We printed a bunch of shirts with number 3s on the back, and we do a really neat thing where we do a future player run out with us. We get community kids come in that are younger. They come to our locker room pre-game. They run out with our team. They get to shoot in the layup line. We give them a T-shirt, with our logo on it, and we just future net. So we announce their name. We let their parents and their families come in for free for the game, and it's a pretty cool thing. But
awesome.
On those T-shirts, we tried to give everybody like one with a 3 on the back. We wanted student body to all wear them and turn around every time we made a 3. We just couldn't pull that off. Our student body, they want to do their own thing. So.
I'm coming up with some ideas like hanging it'd be like baseball and having a 3 wall.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if I want to put 3s or if I want to spell out Patriot Warriors. So like if we hit it, I know I had Zach Keen on and some other people. Zach got a community, a deli in his community in Illinois to do tees for 3s. So if they made 10 3s in a game, everybody in attendance got a coupon to get a free sweet tea. So I don't know if you saw this at the Zoom clinic. So he showed the video footage of it where they're down like 17 points with like a minute and a half to go. And he shows the kids in the stands all standing and the girls on the sideline. And the girl hits a 3 with like 30 seconds left to give them 10. And the gym erupts and the players are like all high-fiving. I mean, if you're playing traditional basketball and you're down 17 with a minute and a half to go, the gym's empty. I mean, they're in their car. Except for the moms and dads that got to take their kids home after the game. People are filing out and saying, this one's over. The kids are they'll be rattling the keys and doing the start the bus chant and all that stuff from the but some of those things of system basketball and hearing that the excitement in the community for the most part and being fun and invigorating. I don't know why more people don't do it, and I think it's because it's so outside the box.
It is. It is not for the faint of heart. It is not. And when they say on their podcast or in their book, you got to be a little bit crazy. I don't feel like a crazy guy. I mean, I've had some really great players. I had a girl who plays at UConn right now on the team that I was at. I mean, we play traditional basketball. It's, you know, I don't know how I got to where I was to do this from all that I did in the past. But, hey, it was fun. I want to do it again. I think it fits teams that don't have tremendous talent, but you can get kids to work hard. I think it gives you a way to have fun. And I do think not always focusing on winning is a great thing. Unfortunately, our community loves winning like every community, and I love winning. I want to win every game. And we have a goal to win region every year, and we've been close. But I just think it's kind of refreshing, and I'm interested. I haven't really got to start buy-in for this season yet because we just haven't been able to be together, you know, and I don't want to do it all over Zoom. But we're going to push for buy-in again. I think it suits the style of this team that I'm going to have. If you don't have kids that can take it to the rack consistently, you don't have a lot of post play, how are you going to score, Mark? I mean,
you got to generate offense somehow, press, scramble. I mean, you know what I'm looking at. I have to face a 6'10" guy for the next 3 years. So, I mean, and 3 of my top 8 players are 5'8". So if I played traditional, which I did the last few years, playing a 1-1-3 matchup zone, I'd have to, there's no way I'd be able to play all 3 of them at the same time. So now that allows me to put them into shifts and get them out there and fly around, shoot the basketball, have fun. And
our kids cheered for each other more this year than I've seen. I mean, they got fired up for each other. It was fun to see. I mean, the bench was up more. And they're pretty conservative kids up here. You know, they'll do the little all stand up and clap at the same time.
So for guys like me
that
are going to be putting it in or looking at it, what's your last piece of advice for people if they want to do this?
Well, you've done everything you need to do. My first piece of advice is study as much as you can, and that's what I was struggling to do early was finding the book, talking to people. But you're so far ahead of the game with that. I would say from what I sought counsel on from other people was just to stick with it, to not doubt it, and to be prepared. Just don't go away from it. I mean, be prepared to give it its full look and learn what you're going to learn through it. If you go into it like you might bail after a couple of games, then I don't think you're going to really get the benefits and the joy of it. I mean, I could say that after we won 19 games, if we'd have gone 10-19, I probably wouldn't be saying that, you know, but just stick with it and enjoy the parts that are going to be fun. Cheer for those guys. Really sell the parts that are true life things that are beyond this season, like those kids getting to play, those kids all buying in, those kids supporting each other. To me, that was what was so refreshing. I'll tell you a quick story. We got to play in a really important playoff game. I always feel bad when kids don't play. It's like the number one I think of when I go in the locker room or the office right after we play a game, win or lose. It's like, I didn't get so-and-so in the game. I didn't get so-and-so in the game. So-and-so only played a minute. Because I just have a heart for wanting kids to participate. It's just who I am. So we're playing in a really big playoff game. There's this girl on the team. She's the 7th kid on the team. We have really 5.5 really good players, and then one more. And then she's like that next one. She played most regular season. We're playing a really tough team in the playoffs. Her whole family, her whole church, they rent a bus. They get T-shirts. They come down to this playoff game, make that long drive. I didn't put her in the game. And, I mean, they got their own special, my grandma's there, you know. And it tore me up because I didn't know all that at the time, and it wouldn't have really made a difference. You don't play kids or not play kids based on, you know, who comes to watch. You play kids to win the game.
Correct.
Where they are in that roster. We were playing a team that was not suitable to her skill set, pressed like crazy, and she's kind of turned it over a good bit. She had a bad week of practice. Those are all just realities that we know as a coach. So I still remember that, and it still bothers me that I didn't at least let her get on the floor in that big state tournament game, big arena, even just touch the ball, you know, and make a play. I just went the conservative route. I'm going with the kids that have got the experience. And the cool thing about the system is it solves that for you. You're putting kids in the game, whether they like it or not. So I would say that's one of the things I like the most is it makes you trust those players more that you typically, you know, you wouldn't. I guess it's a wild ride. I'll say that, Mark. I'm interested in seeing what
Well,
happens when you do it in the spring.
Well, what I'm interested in seeing too, Brian, is your growth in year two, and then with the Facebook group of the network of guys that we've kind of built together with this stuff, that we could sit here in the season and say, hey, it's a Sunday night, we're in season or whatever, and let's have a Zoom call and let's discuss system stories of what so and so's saying, what's working, what's not working, what are you doing in practice to keep the motivation? Are we practicing too much? Is the practice too long? I think that's the hardest part. Bob Belf started it with the Yahoo group, and we've kind of continuation. The System Basketball Facebook group and the clinics have kind of made it more interactive and virtual, if you will. And
Absolutely.
I think yourself, myself, the system coaches, we're one of the most sharing people in the world. I mean, I haven't come across any that I've talked to that weren't willing to offer. And we got that attitude like, we're going to press you, we're going to trap you, and we're going to shoot a three. What's the secret to that? I mean, my rival coach goes, oh, I'm getting an early scout on you. I'm like, okay, I have a group called System Basketball, and we're going to shoot threes. We're going to press. I'm like, well, what's different? Only difference now is instead of my team just shooting threes and playing zone, we're going to get out in full court and do the rest of it. So there's no secret. I mean, some coaches are secretive and system coaches are far from it. So if anyone's listening to this today or on the audio and you want to join a group of guys, come to the Facebook group, System Basketball Coaches. We have lively discussions in there about different things, and we try to meet up and do some things here and there, do film studies and stuff like that. Sure. So Brandon, stay safe out there in Georgia. We'll be in touch, tuning in to see how Pickens does this year in year two. Hopefully you break some school records, go over 70, go higher than 70, break some turnover record, break not your own turnover records, but steal records. You don't want to be the team turning it over, and then lighting it up on the scoreboard with some threes, because I'm excited for it. I know you had a great experience doing it in year one, and you've learned a lot, and year two is going to be hopefully that much better for you.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm glad I feel like now I can just pop a question on the Facebook group now, like, hey, when it comes time, this is what happened. I need some counsel, and there'll be guys that'll jump in. They'll jump in.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, and I hope people feel the same way, that we could just have a conversation or say, hey, let's go have a Zoom meeting.
If anybody hears this, you want to see us give up 90, I'll send you any huddle link you want, practice plans, whatever we have. I'm not the most digitally organized, but Mark, when we get off this, I do got one thing I want to cover with you before we go. If you want to do it off the recording.
Okay, no problem. Okay, no problem. Thank you guys for joining us.